Oh, sorry, recording. All right, welcome to the Outback Adventurer podcast. My name's Steve, and we've got our first guest ever today. Opal legend, over 50 years experience. Sorry to pump you up. John Sutherland, but to me, he's Dad. So, Dad, thanks for coming on our podcast.
Yeah, well, that's a pretty good start. You really pumped me up.
Yeah. No, we'll pump you up along the way. So we're just a couple of quick fire questions. So Dad's been in the industry for well over 50 years, highly experienced cutting expertise. I'd call you an Opal expert. But we'll start off with a couple of fun questions. Favourite place to visit in the Australian outback?
Well, there's several in mind, but yeah, the Cooper Creek country, I just love. We've always loved it, going up there for years and years, and I even took you up there, Steve, a couple of times, and we had some great times, But that sort of country, yeah, Winton, all that sort of Queensland outback areas, it's just great. It's still a great place to go.
Yeah, outback Queensland's one of my favourite places. So Danny and I, we just went to Cunnamulla, went to the Hour Show, but yeah, around that area it was just so beautiful. But the Coopers Creek, catching fresh, everything's a native fish there as well. There's no carp in the river. It's just a beautiful part of Australia. So let's get on to opal. What's your favourite type of opal? I think I know the answer, but
Oh, the black opal is because of uniqueness, its rarity, and the best of black opal has got to be just the most beautiful stone in the world. That's all there is to it. Some of the crystals are magnificent, but a high quality black opal, and to actually cut one is just the best feeling ever.
And you'd be probably specifically talking about knobby opal.
Yeah, mainly. I've seen some very nice growing seam opal in black, but the knobby opal is just special, very unique.
Yeah, it does. It just seems to have that X factor, that brightness. But some of the Cookman parcels, I know I've seen you cut. A few of those stones changed my life, and we'll talk about those stones as we go. So, how many opals do you reckon you've cut?
Oh, we'll start with seven figures and probably keep going.
Oh, for sure. If you count triplets in that, then you're talking, an endless amount, really.
Oh, the triplet cutting in the early days was there's more mass produced, as you could say, and there was the numbers of those were quite great, especially in the early days when there was a lot of that type of opal around, but not so much these days.
And it's a full production line. I mean, that when I was a kid, I know you had my brother Wade, my sister Cassie, they were working for you, and you also had Daryl Estella cutting, and Mum was working full time. It was a full family operation cutting the triplets.
Yeah, well, it had to be because that's the only way you could do it in volume. But yeah, it was pretty full on. I'm not much more, you could say, settled and subdued with just cutting the black and a few smaller parcels of what comes up in the solid opal, both from Cooper Pedy, Lightning Ridge, and even White Cliffs.
White Cliffs, yeah.
So just love what I'm doing. I still enjoy it.
Yeah, White Cliffs opal. It's a shame that there's not much coming out the ground there anymore, because that was beautiful stuff to work with. So you've been in the industry a long time. It all started with, I guess, a family business as well, like back in the early days. You, Granddad, Uncle Bob.
Yeah, my brother and my father basically started things off in a very small way. I was still working at another employment at that time, but I just got more and more interested, especially when I went into the workshop after the guys had finished their day's work, and I just play around with opal, and you could say it's like water off a duck's back. You just could not get enough of it.
Yeah, couldn't get enough of it. And how old would have you been then with Uncle Bob and Granddad?
Yeah, I was 18. 18 when I started. I think it was in 69, 70. I think 69 when Dad started, and my brother. 70s when I left my work and started with the cutting of the opal.
Yeah.
So early days, and never stopped learning since then.
No, and never will. That's what's amazing about opal too. Is you never, every parcel you learn something new, something different. So that's the cutting side of things. You did do a bit of mining and a mooka.
Yeah, that was good fun. Back in it was the late 70s, 78, 79, 80, around there. Me and a couple of other guys, we got together and just a bit of hand mining, you could say. Nothing in a big way, but
Open cut.
Open cut, yeah. Worked hard. It was the middle of January, yeah, hot. But yeah, look, great experience. We didn't find a lot, but we did find some, and I can tell you the thrill of swinging a pick into the dirt, and then you hear that crack of a certain tone, and then you see that beautiful blue-green crystal comes up, and you're the first one to find it in the the millions of years or whatever. Pretty exciting stuff. But I didn't do a lot of mining, but it was great fun at the time. Yeah.
The cutting side of things is obviously where you knew your expertise would lay, and you obviously love the cutting. But Coober Pedy, you've got a strong affiliation, a long history with Coober Pedy. Now, Coober Pedy is a bitumen road all the way. It's the most beautiful highway in Australia, probably Port Augusta to Coober Pedy. What was it like, say, late 60s, 70s, going up to Coober Pedy, you and Uncle Bob?
I have to say, an adventure. The dirt road started just out of Port Augusta. Started just out of about 10 k's out of Port Augusta.
530 kilometres from Coober Pedy.
and actually all the way to Alice Springs, it was all dirt road. But we'd have an old Holden that we used to use just for that purpose. We'd always expect a few flat tyres, which is pretty well guaranteed, and usually the exhaust pipe had fallen off by the time we got back, and but
it's the only way you could do it.
Just taking in this stride, it was just to say more an adventure. But summertime was
It's no air conditioning like the cars have now.
No air conditioning, and not much fun. You had to get down on the bull dust and change the tyre, but it was all part of the learning experience. But
extra of it,
now it's you hop in the car and you put it on cruise control and bitumen road all the way, and
put your favourite podcast or your favourite music on, and it's
get pretty bored by the time you get to Coober Pedy. Yeah,
but back then, it was a full adventure from the moment you left to the moment you got there. You never knew what was going to happen, what was going to break down in the car, and you're a long way from help. It's a very remote place, Coober Pedy.
Yeah, sure is. Well, it was.
Yeah. So you and Uncle Bob used to just camp out when you went to Coober Pedy, those first early trips?
We camped on the way up, and a couple of times we camped in Coober Pedy. We could have stayed in cheap accommodation, which we did a few times, but there was one time we had an experience because we used to take our little three-wheeler motorbikes up, and we camped out on the 4 Mile Creek just out of Coober Pedy, and there was a few thunderstorms about. We didn't think much of it, and one afternoon we left our little camp there and went into town to look at a couple of parcels of Opal, and where we could see these big black clouds, and it started raining, and I think, we better get back and see
how the camp's looking.
If the tent's still there. Yeah, well, the tent was still there, but unfortunately our little three-wheeler bike got washed down the creek. It was in a flash flood.
Yeah.
Found the bike about 100 metres downstream, upside down, full of mud, and
You probably didn't have much experience with thunderstorms in inland Australia back then either.
It only rains about twice a year up there.
And when it does, it rains. It properly rains.
So we copped it a bit unlucky that day, but yeah, when we got back home, we fixed the bike up again, so it was all good.
Yeah, all part of the adventure, and then you ended up living in Coober Pedy, bought a house there.
In 1984, yep. Yeah. We stayed there for 4.5 years. Probably the best experience we've had as far as learning about Opal, because we were right amongst all the Opal. There was Opal miners quite coming in to show you parcels of Opal, and
there's an abundance of Opal too, eh?
Yeah, they were boom years. Minterby was flat out, and the Coober Pedy, there was all sorts of mining going on. A lot of buyers too. The Chinese were everywhere, and they had their place too. They would buy a lot of the cheaper end parcels and chips and things like that.
Yeah.
But during those years, that was my real learning years, both good and bad. Buying bad parcels and appreciating a few good ones along the way, and
making all the mistakes that you can now teach me, thankfully.
Yeah.
Paved the way for us young lads.
It's the only way to learn, I guess. It's a hard way, and that's you make a mistake buying, and you think, well, I don't want to buy that particular Opal again, and but you still make mistakes, and you'll never ever master it. But you can get better. Yeah,
that's right. You try not to make the same mistake twice, but then Opal has a way of showing you, giving you surprises, something you've never seen before, and you're like, how the hell did I not see that? Until you cut it, but that's just the nature of the stone. It's a natural gemstone, and
it's a natural stone, and with any natural stone comes impurities and probably bits of sand, or there might be a fracture
natural
fracture there, and you're very hard to see sometimes in Opal. Unfortunately, sometimes it comes on a good stone where you probably paid a fair bit of money, and then you're probably running a loss. But anyway, that's how it goes. Yeah.
Great when it goes your way, but it can be a very heartbreaking stone. So those early days in Cooper Pedy, any memories of some pretty crazy dust storms you used to get, especially when boom years of mining, there was so much loose dirt on the surface, and a storm comes in and
yeah, terrible storms. Mainly November, October, November, the worst probably the months there. That just seemed to be constant. And we had an above ground house. We weren't underground, and there was many times that my wife Dot, again coming out with the broom, sweeping the back veranda, but piled up with all this dust that had come in and
dumps on
bits of paper and milk cartons and whatever. But so you sweep it out again the next day. Same thing happens again, but we sort of just lived with it because we knew it was that's desert country and it's mining country, and
that's just the way the way it is out
there.
But you got a lot of good memories. You played cricket, you played football.
Yeah, we started off a cricket team there, and it was great times. It really was great times, and uniqueness of playing a game of cricket on a gravel everything. We did have a cement pitch, mind you, but you walk out with a stubby in your hand to go out and bat, and then you put your stubby behind the stumps, face the first ball, whatever, and then when you get out, you pick your stubby up and walk back again. And if you're really unlucky, your stubby gets knocked over because you got bowled or something. But it was good fun.
You drive the ball and you come up with grazers all over you, but you want to play cricket, that's what you did.
Well, you learn how to
made it happen.
You learn how to play all the bad shots.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sure the quality wouldn't have been what you were playing in Adelaide. But let's get a bit deeper on the sort of opal industry. Like, what's your favourite part about the opal industry? Like,
I really enjoy buying of all things. I really enjoy buying because no parcel is ever the same. It's unique. You can even go to the same miner and thinking, I want to buy the same stuff again, and you go there and no, it's all different again. So every parcel had you thinking differently. And that to me was exciting because it was always that challenge, you know? Yeah, so, and of course, with that sort of buying, you come up with some good ones and you come up with some
bad ones.
Some bad ones.
But that, not only keeps it interesting, it keeps that challenge alive. And, not knowing what's going to come next makes you constantly keep your guard up as well. You've got to constantly switched on in this game when you're buying opal.
It was also because of the challenge of it, and because I just loved opal right through and through. I just wanted to keep learning, and the more parcels I could buy on cut, the more I would learn from it, and probably right up till this day now, I still feel the same.
Yeah, well, I've seen you grew up watching you obviously cutting opal for a living. It was always Dad's just cutting opal, but now that I'm older and mature, I've actually seen how much you love the stone, and you seem to love it more and more each year. I don't know. I've never seen you go, oh, I'm over it. I've had enough of opal. You've always, even though you might be cutting a bad parcel, but you're still. I don't know. I've never heard you complain about working with opal.
Probably the later years when I've had more to do with the Lightning Ridge opal, the black opal. That really is a challenge, and but I've had some pretty good lots and some damn heartbreakers too. But the beauty of that has really, it's and it's not a lot of hard work like cutting all these chippers we used to do. It's more so a concentrated.
Bit of a mind game.
It's a real challenge cutting black opal. And you talk to a few other guys that do the same thing, and they'll say the same thing. That you'd never really ever get to know it, and even the so-called experts never really know it properly. It's such a unique stone.
Yeah, it's always going to give you surprises. Yeah, but great feeling when it does go your way. What about one of the biggest challenges you've faced in the industry over the years?
You've got to go back to the year 2000 when the terror attack on the Twin Towers devastated pretty well everything, not only the opal trade because of the tourism, of course, pretty well stopped completely, and with opal, a lot of the opal goes to the tourist trade.
Yeah.
But during that time and the next couple of years after, It was a real struggle to stay afloat, but we got through it. We just cut back on a lot of things,
Things
and
just had to adjust the business to suit, I guess, the way the world was at the
yeah,
time and
but
the
it
way the world
also
was going.
but also a lot of the people, the ones that were in the business at the time, sort of drifted away, and so by the time things started to happen good again, a lot of those things were sorted out, and there was a lot less buyers, or a lot less cutters, a lot less everything. So it all had to start again.
Yeah, which is crazy because that happened 2001. And I mean, I know
Yeah,
you said one of your
2001.
best years was actually the year 1998, 99, 2000
Yeah,
when
it
they had
was. Sorry, the
The
Olympics.
Sydney
Yeah, yeah,
2000 Olympics.
that's right. The Olympics. That yeah, we couldn't cut enough stuff. We were just flat out all the time,
So you
just
just come
cutting.
out of a really good run of
Yeah,
business, and then the Twin Tower attacks happen,
it
and
was just
everything.
overnight. Within 1 week, you could say goodbye to any orders or whatever. And yeah, the whole, well, it's not only Opal or the
Yeah,
whole
it was
jewellery trade and everything to
industry.
do with that type of industry just went kaput. Yeah.
Yeah, jeez.
Mm.
Yeah, no, it's
That
interesting
was
to know that,
marvelous. Yeah.
these world events does impact the opal industry, and you've got to adjust, and you've got to either change course, change direction to, to keep things going, to survive, and you got to always be ready to do that because you don't know what's going to happen with the industry, or the world
Mm.
situation. But
Yeah.
on a
Mm.
better note, then, so you've mentioned a few times about good and bad parcels. When they go good, they're great. When they don't, it's heartbreaking. So, what's the best, say, couple of parcels you've ever bought, or ever worked with?
It was a couple, it was several in mind, but there was a couple there in Cooper Pedy where it really lifted us up. They just cut very well, and even down to the lower grades like the Potch and Colour, which is the lowest grade, was coming out good too, and that really lifted us up at that time. But
Nice
also
feeling.
probably there's one in Lightning Ridge that really stands out. But
Yeah,
with a couple of the knobbies we cut there were just super black stones with a real gem pattern on top as well. They were probably the most joyous pieces I've ever cut. And
well, you're referring to the 19 carat straw pattern stone, which is a stone that changed my life. But that's you've never cut something like that
yeah,
since.
well, I can honestly say that when I was cutting that stone, I was actually shaking, and I
Yeah,
never used to do that, but I was actually shaking. Looked like I had the DTS when I was trying to cut that one, but but
yeah,
yeah, look, because when you cut a knobby, and you cut down the face to get to the colour, this one just fired out like it was like lightning bolts, one on top of the other. That's how that started to look, and of course it's I'm there in the grindstone, touching it up and think, wow, and that was my probably the pinnacle of all the stuff I've cut
yeah.
all these
That
years.
one
Yeah,
moment.
yeah.
Yeah, at least that moment happened. I know you would love for it to happen
I think
again.
it even got you excited.
Well, it did. Well, I mean, I was working in the mines, and on my week off, I was cutting for, wanting to spend more time in the workshop more and more. That stone was really what triggered me to go, hey, I want to go all in on the, opal and gemstone. And that made me basically go to GIA to study.
Yeah, well, I
This
remember
was a bit before that.
even the guy that I actually sold the stone to before I showed him the stone. You'd had already sent a picture to him,
Yeah.
and he was so keen about seeing this stone. He wouldn't leave me alone until he saw the stone.
And the stone is now framed in his office.
Yeah,
Right?
he's got it all
Yeah.
pinned up in his office there
Yeah.
in the picture. Yeah,
Yeah. I remember asking him about the stone. He said, Steve, that was the stone.
yeah.
It was
There's been
just the
other good
most
ones, of
beautiful
course.
stone.
But there's been other very, very nice stones, and cutting black opal when you really do get a good one, it sticks in your mind for a while. Yeah.
What about the kaleidoscope stone that you call it?
Yeah, that's another one.
It was a black crystal, wasn't it?
It was a black crystal, but once again, we had to face it the opposite way than what opal normally faces. In other words, instead of the colour coming out on top, the colour was underneath, and so I reversed the stone around, and whammo, this pattern of red flash. Actually, I've still never seen a red flash stone like this one.
So bright.
And the guy, once again, the same guy bought this one too, and he said he regrets the day that he sold it.
Yeah.
So
One of
yeah,
those stones you just can't replace.
yeah,
Yeah. So, but what about some of the worst? I mean, I know there's one story that comes to my mind. I was a kid, and I remember going to this house where you were going to look at a parcel of opal, and I remember being in the their backyard playing around. And I remember I was like, geez, it's taking long. And I walked in to see us, and they were literally, I can still remember them talking you into buying this parcel.
Yeah, I sort of learnt quickly after this because I learnt not to trust others to tell you what's good and what's bad.
Yeah.
Well, mainly what's good, because in this case, I didn't know this particular type of opal. I listened to them, their reasoning, and how it's going to cut, and you're going to make all this money, da 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 da. And it would end up being the worst thing I've ever bought. So bad, actually, that I got halfway through it and I thought, oh, I don't want to cut anymore. I don't want to do this one.
You just done with it.
But I got over that. I got
Yeah.
over it. Yeah.
And that was a Cooper Petey parcel, wasn't it?
Oh
no, that was
I think it was. I think it was. No, it was one of the early Lightning Ridge ones.
Yeah, yep.
But it wasn't black. It was stuff that was. It was a bit of everything. But anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one memory, but a bad one. But we got over that.
Well, that probably would have been late 90s or early 2000s, I reckon that happened.
Late 90s, I think. Yeah.
There was one more, a bit more recent, and I know it was a ridge stuff. I think it was a knobby, and once again you were talked into it. And this is the stone that had a bit of a accident with a hammer.
All right, I got a smile on my face.
Yeah, it's all.
It was only somebody come in there with I'd previously bought a couple of sort of dodgy lots, and I thought I've got to stop doing this, buying like this. And anyway, a guy came in. It was only a $500 stone, and it looked all right, bit of red, So I paid him the price, and I touched it on the grindstone, and the colour disappeared as soon as I touched it on the grindstone. Up comes some cracks, some sand. And I thought, you've got to be joking. So I've never done this before, but I got the hammer which was nearby, and went smash. Just to teach myself a lesson.
Just to not get talked into it. So, well, Dad, this has been, even I've learnt some things here. It's been a great little chat. I know, doing a podcast, it's all new to us too. It's not the easiest thing, but
yeah, no, I just enjoyed it.
Well, I could sit here all day and talk Opal with you, and thankfully we've got all day, and we probably will. But
hopefully people find it interesting too, because it is interesting, and I've had a roller coaster ride with it, up and down.
Yeah.
Still going.
But you're still here, and you still love it. I think that's a great thing for the industry. You've taught me a lot. You're a very experienced cutter, and I'll never stop learning. If you never stop learning, it means I'll never stop, and that's exciting for me. And plenty of outback adventures still to come. I know you love coming here we're in Lightning Ridge at the moment. You're in Cooper Petey fairly often, and I know you love getting away anywhere you can to the rivers, chasing floods, chasing native fish.
Yeah, I'm about to plan another trip to the Cooper very shortly.
Good. Well, never stop doing that. This won't be your first time you're on the podcast, but thank you for making it happen, and hope everyone enjoyed it. Cheers.
Yep, good stuff.